Hello, everybody. This is Tony Beadle. I'm president and CEO of Rockport Music, and it's my pleasure today to have a conversation with the founders of Rockport Music. They are David Alpher, Paul Sylva, and representing Lila Deis is her husband, Karl Lauby, who was also there at those very important moments when the whole idea of having a chamber music festival in Rockport was hatched. And Karl, you gave me some information that you and Lila and David and your wife were on a concert tour, and then we're looking forward to a little rest coming to Rockport on July 4th weekend in 1981.
I do remember that vacation, and I'll bet you David does as well. But in 1981, Lila had a very busy singing schedule in that spring. Some of it was with David. They were concertizing in various places, and Lila was traveling around the country and the world, actually. And four of us, including Lila and David and me and David's wife, came to Rockport on that July 4th weekend for a vacation.
I think it was Lila mainly who was doing the globetrotting. She was with the New York Vocal Arts Ensemble. I was not. I think if I recall that year, I was with her and the quartet in France, in Grenoble, to do a concert because for some reason their pianist and founder, Raymond Beadle, could not do it.
And we had a nice vacation in Rockport, a lovely, lovely, lovely seaside setting, as you all know, better than I. And we were at the Linotree Inn, and chamber music was being chatted about by David and Lila. And at some point, I think I suggested, probably very cavalierly or casually, not cavalierly, casually, oh, wouldn't Rockport be a lovely place for a chamber music festival? Now, I didn't say it with an exclamation point. I think I said it about like that. Wouldn't this be a nice place for chamber music? And David and Lila took the idea from there.
I told Tony not too long ago that Lila and Karl and I were always, for years, coming up with harebrained ideas and schemes and
yes, we were.
Notions that went nowhere.
David and Lila came back after meeting several of these people, including Sudsy Roper and a couple of other people. And they were not terribly enthusiastic about the response they'd gotten, because traffic would be impossible. Nobody would pay those high price of tickets. Where are you going to give the concerts? All those things. So we were having a kind of a post solicitation chat at the Linotree in the sunroom, and Larry Olson, who was the innkeeper with his wife Penny, overheard this, and Larry said something like, well, look, I've never been to a chamber music concert in my life, but I know whenever I go down to the framery to pick up a frame to bring back to the inn to put on the wall with a picture in it, the guy who runs the framery is always playing chamber music. So why don't you go down and talk to him? His name is Paul Sylva. Go down and talk to him and see what he has to say. Right?
So I can jump in and just offer a crazy little tidbit. When Larry came in, he remarked that he had some chamber musicians up at the inn, and he was going to tell them about the framery and how we always had music. And that particular day, we were playing the Brahms sextet when Lila and David came into the framery and said, we've heard you play a lot of music here, particularly chamber music. And I said, sure, what do you want to hear? And they said, this is fine. And they said, we've come up with this idea, this cockamamie idea, to start a chamber music festival here in Rockport. And I looked at the two of them and I said, that's a brilliant idea, but you're going to need a few things to happen for it to, to become to reality. First and foremost, you're going to need some money. And they said, yeah. And I said, then you're going to need a space. And I've got a space that I think I can get for you. And that was the Art Association.
We said at one point that we have a lot of contacts in the musical world. We have people who owe us favors, and we know chamber music and we know music, blah, 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 blah. But what we don't have is any kind of local contact, whatever. And Paul said, well, I've always wanted to do something like this, but I didn't know any musicians. And so but he has, but it was very obvious that he had the local contacts. He knew all about local fundraising, and he had exactly what we lacked, and we had exactly what he lacked. So there was something that made me think, well, this is not the lighted frisbee. This is something that might actually happen. It was a strange feeling. We just sealed our partnership with a handshake. We didn't have to sign a single document, a single paper, nothing.
That whole thing happened in about an hour and a half or less. Is that
Oh,
right?
less.
We identified those necessary elements to get a chamber music festival off the ground. And the biggest one, of course, was the money. You know, how are we going to get the money? And from there, it's I had to just simply sit down and let you guys embark on, we're going to get the American String Quartet, and we're going to get the New York Bach Ensemble. And, the schedule was dreamed up by David and Lila right then and there. We were all pretty excited about the potential. We thought, we can do this.
Did you discuss the timing of the year?
Yes.
In early June.
But it was impressed upon us that this was the time between the end of the concert season in major metropolitan areas and the beginning of the summer festival season. If you want to get people of the quality that we wanted, they were booked for summer festivals pretty steadily, starting with July.
I'll tell you, the money was tight, as Paul knows better than I do. I remember in those early years, Lila and I think, at least in the couple of the first years, we had the gate receipts from the concert. And afterward, we brought them back to the linden tree where we stayed and counted out the funds on the bed before we went to sleep to see if there was enough money to pay the musicians that week and how much the shortfall was going to be. And then the routine was Lila would let Eleanor, the treasurer, and Eleanor, in her quiet way, would either go to Paul or Ron Stanton and say, we have a problem. We have a bit of a shortfall. And the shortfall would get taken care of. Right, Paul?
Quietly.
Quietly, very quietly.
I think the fact that this particular notion went somewhere was because we happened to be there in this place that was unaccustomed to us, that fairly unfamiliar, and we looked around. I know that the contribution that I made at that point was to say that this was obviously a town with a tremendous visual artistic heritage, an important art colony in the 40s and the decades preceding the 40s. It has, shall we say, it had gone commercial. Nonetheless, it's artistically vibrant, and it could be put into a new phase, because there doesn't seem to be that much music going on. Although I didn't do any research, it just seemed that it had the intimacy and the artistic feel and the ocean to be a great backdrop. So when Karl was the first one to mention the subject, I thought it was a great idea, and it went on from there.